Good morning. Welcome to today's message. Let's see what Spirit has to say for us today. We've got the Two of Pentacles. So we are facing a decision in our resources. This could be deciding between one job and another. Could be deciding between, maybe between two jobs, but I see it more as a decision in a direction on which way to go. It could be if you're deciding on multiple options for, it could be romance, but I think it's actually between people. Maybe you're deciding between two people. I don't know if you're facing a decision between a mother and a father, brother and sister. I'm not sure. Looks like a decision though. And then we've got the Ten of Wands. So whatever decision you're facing, it's going to put down a very heavy burden that you've been carrying. Maybe you have been trying to decide between two people for a very long time. I know I was talking yesterday with my son about decisions that were made in my family over time, decisions that we've all been faced with. It seems like a decision between a spouse and a parent for some reason, and that will obviously weigh heavy on people. It never ends up hurting the spouse or the parents. It's the person having to make the decision that usually ends up hurting the most over that, because they've literally had to split their heart in two, right? So that is definitely a heavy burden. And with the Ten of Wands, I feel like that burden is getting ready to be put down. At the end of the day, I guess if you're made to choose between two people, or made to choose between a spouse and a parent, or, between two parents or two children even, then I think what Spirit is saying here with the Nine of Wands is keeping your boundaries and testing your courage, right? And if you do that, then you wouldn't allow them to make you make that choice, right? You wouldn't have to make that choice. Nobody should ever have to make that choice. And if you chose yourself first, then you would have pushed back, at least in my case. I've been divorced for many, many years, so I can speak about this objectively, but looking back on things, I was made to choose between my parents and my husband, and it was a very heavy burden. And if I had the proper boundaries set up with each of them, and I wasn't so codependent on both of them, then maybe I don't make the choice. Maybe the boundaries were set up in such a way that the choice was never presented to me, and I didn't have to make that choice. If I had made that choice first, then I could have kept everybody in my life with proper boundaries. It's too many. So, it all starts with us. If we love ourselves enough, then when we're faced with those choices, the choices aren't as monumental, because we're not defining ourselves, and of course the devil, right? So we're not defining ourselves by those people and their opinions. We're defining ourselves by our own opinions. And when we define ourselves by their opinions, you see this lock here is open. We never had to define ourselves by their opinion. We never had to think of ourselves as less than or not worthy, because we were enough just by ourselves. The choices that we made wouldn't have had such an impact on those people. Who I choose to marry shouldn't make a difference on whether or not I have my parents in my life. And that was a big lesson for me. And I, when I had children of my own, I swore I would never do that to them. But, that's just a boundary I set up for myself. And I swore that no matter who was in their lives, it was never going to alter or affect the relationship that I had with my children. When your children grow older and they get married and they have families of their own, your relationship changes, obviously, but it doesn't need to disappear altogether. I didn't need to be the end all be all in my children's lives. I know that my children and I have our relationship. It's solid, it's healthy, and no amount of external influence is going to affect that. And from there, we get the Queen of Pentacles. And the Queen is she's the mother of the court cards, right? So she's the nurturing energy, and the Pentacles is the resources. So she's resourceful. She's got her domestic skills, as it comes to people, are dead on. She's not defining herself by other standards. She is not letting other people affect what relationship she has in her life. She knows that the people in her life, when they make their choices, it doesn't affect their relationship, because it's a different relationship, right? A parent-child relationship versus a spouse and husband-wife relationship or whatever is different. It's meant to be different. We all have our own paths, and we all have our own burdens to carry, and we all have our own self-imposed limitations that we put on ourselves. And I think what Spirit is telling us here is be mature and know that that you are enough, literally, that you do not need to be defined by those around you. You don't need to be defined by your children's what's the word I'm looking for? Your children's successes or failures, right? Their successes and failures are not your successes and failures. We give them as much information and as much knowledge as we have. We can't give them any more. We can't teach what we don't know. And if we were never taught that boundaries and that we self-sabotage, or that we are defining ourselves by other standards and we don't love ourselves, then it's because the people that taught us didn't know how. They couldn't teach us what they didn't know. There's a lot of mistakes I made in my life and with all kinds of relationships, and I regret them in one way, but in other ways I don't, because those choices that I've made with the information that I had at the time were the best choices I could have made for the information that I had, and the knowledge that I had and the skills that I had. And if those choices were bad or regretful, then they were made for a reason. They brought us to where we're at. And every day I just try to be a little bit better than I was yesterday. I try to notice what these things are, right? I try to open my eyes and see that this lock is open, and open those chains, and open those cages, and let myself out. And it is it's incredibly hard to do, to look at yourself critically and to be able to look and say, I made a mistake and I'm sorry, or please forgive me, or let me make it up to you. Admitting those mistakes and seeing those flaws and looking and doing that shadow work is incredibly important work. When we heal things in ourselves, we heal it for our entire ancestry line, upward and down. We heal it for our parents and for our children. And we can't expect anybody else to do this work for us. This is work we chose to do. This is work everybody needs to do for themselves. Some people may never do it, but it is something that we all need to look at, right? We all need to look at the mirror and see what it is we're bringing to the situation, and make those decisions. And at the end of the day, when somebody makes you make a decision between them and another person, choose you, and choose not to choose. A decision. Make a decision not to decide, and do what's best for you. And always keep yourself first and love yourself first, because when you do that, the people that go in and out of your life, you can let them go with grace and dignity, and you don't need to fight so hard to hold on to relationships that no longer serve you, and you don't need to impress and bow down and work so hard to get an affection and a love that you can never receive because you can't give it to yourself. We have to love ourselves. If we don't love ourselves, nobody else can love us. And really, when we love ourselves, it doesn't matter if anybody else loves us or not, because we have enough love for ourselves that we can stand on our own 2 feet, and we can be who we are and not define ourselves by other standards. So I really like this message today. It was one that I needed to hear personally. Our advice from Spirit is moderation. Is there something that you shouldn't be eating? Try to eat mindfully and healthily. Although the fairies say that a little bit of what you fancy is fine. So, everything in moderation. Exactly. Too much of a good thing is a bad thing. You can go overboard on eating, all the right things, and then you feel deprived, right? So they always used to tell me when you were dieting, give yourself one day where you eat anything you want, it's potato chips, ice cream, candy, whatever, all the bad things that they say are bad, right? If you deny yourself those things, then you stay in constant craving of them. But if you give yourself a little bit of that in moderation, then you don't feel deprived, and you don't end up binging out on those things later. I hate that this is about food necessarily. I think the moderation part can be applied to other areas in our lives, such as, maybe it's you're all work and no play. There's a reason that there's 2 weekend days in a work week, right? For most of us anyway. We have to be careful to balance our work and home life. We have to be careful to balance our families, balance ourselves, make sure that we are taking care of ourselves as much as we're taking care of other people, and that we are paying as much attention to our family as we are to our work, and that we are paying as much attention to eating the good things as we are eating the bad things. So everything in moderation, right? And then we have hidden depths. Something hidden is about to come to light, perhaps a secret or memory at the back of your mind. When we expose what's hidden, we can become free. So a lot of times when we get these cards about secrets, right, everybody's thinking, oh God, who is keeping a secret from me? I'm about to find out something major, blah, blah, blah. The secret is that you've been keeping the secret from yourself, right? What is it that you do not want to look at? What is it that you need to uncover in your shadow work? What do you need to look at within yourself that you haven't been willing to admit? And these don't have to be bad things. These can be good things. I bet there's many, many of you out there that don't even realize how wonderful you are. And I think that's what these two cards here are telling us, is to, a lot of us are doing shadow work. I know I myself have been doing a lot of shadow work, and it's been really hard and painful to admit those things that I have been taught, or that I do, or that I have been conditioned to do, that hurt me, right? And what I think this is saying is, when we're doing that shadow work, remember that there's good that we can uncover too, not just the bad. There are plenty of good things that we just can't admit because we don't love ourselves enough to see it. So when we're doing that shadow work and we're looking at ourselves, remember to balance that out, to look at the good and the bad. And we can move forward from there. So that is your message for today. I will see you guys tomorrow.